The Occupational Safety and Health Administration, or OSHA, plays a critical role in ensuring safe and healthy working conditions across the United States. Through the establishment and enforcement of safety standards, OSHA helps to prevent workplace injuries, illnesses, and fatalities. A key aspect of OSHA's approach to workplace safety involves the classification of personnel based on their training, experience, and responsibilities. Understanding these classifications is essential for employers to maintain compliance with OSHA regulations and, most importantly, to foster a culture of safety in the workplace. This essay delves into 4 key OSHA personnel classifications: competent person, designated person, authorized person, and qualified person. We'll explore the definitions of each classification, the required training and qualifications, how individuals are assigned these roles, and examples of these classifications in action. Additionally, we will examine the importance of documentation, best practices for implementation, and the overall impact of proper personnel classification on workplace safety and compliance. The competent person is a cornerstone of many OSHA standards. This individual plays a crucial role in identifying and mitigating hazards in various work environments. OSHA defines a competent person as one who is capable of identifying existing and predictable hazards in the surroundings or working conditions which are unsanitary, hazardous, or dangerous to employees, and who has authorization to take prompt corrective measures to eliminate them. The training and qualifications required for a competent person vary depending on the specific industry and hazards present. Generally, a competent person should possess a combination of education, experience, and training that enables them to recognize and address hazards effectively. This may include formal training courses, on-the-job experience under the supervision of a qualified individual, or a combination of both. Employers are responsible for designating competent persons within their organizations. This designation is typically based on an individual's demonstrated knowledge, skills, and abilities related to the specific hazards present in the workplace. The designation process should be documented and readily accessible to employees. Examples of competent person responsibilities can be found in various OSHA standards, including the construction standard for scaffolding, which requires a competent person to oversee the erection, dismantling, and inspection of scaffolding. Similarly, the general industry standard for excavation and trenching mandates a competent person to classify soil types, inspect protective systems, and ensure worker safety in excavations. Designated persons represent another important category within OSHA's personnel classification framework. These individuals are assigned specific safety-related tasks or responsibilities by the employer. Unlike competent persons, who typically have broader hazard recognition and mitigation duties, designated persons focus on specific areas or tasks. The required training and qualifications for a designated person are directly related to the specific tasks they are assigned. For example, a designated person responsible for lockout-tagout procedures would need comprehensive training on energy control procedures, hazard identification, and the proper use of lockout-tagout equipment. In contrast, a designated person responsible for fire prevention activities might require training on fire hazards, fire prevention techniques, and the use of fire extinguishers. Employers select designated persons based on their knowledge, skills, and abilities relevant to the assigned tasks. This selection process should be documented and clearly communicated to the designated individuals. The documentation should outline the specific responsibilities and authority granted to the designated person. Examples of designated person roles can be found in various OSHA standards. For instance, the Confined Space Entry Standard requires employers to designate an entry supervisor responsible for overseeing entry operations, ensuring proper atmospheric testing, and coordinating emergency response. Similarly, the Hazardous Energy Control Standard requires employers to designate authorized employees who are responsible for performing lockout-tagout procedures. The Authorized Person classification pertains to individuals who are granted permission by the employer to enter or access specific areas or equipment that may pose potential hazards. This classification is particularly relevant in industries and workplaces where restricted access is necessary to prevent accidents and ensure worker safety. The training and qualifications for an authorized person depend on the specific hazards present in the restricted area or associated with the equipment. For example, an authorized person permitted to enter a high-voltage electrical room would require specific training on electrical safety, lockout, tag-out procedures, and personal protective equipment. In contrast, an authorized person authorized to operate a forklift would need training on safe forklift operation, load handling, and pedestrian safety. The process of designating authorized persons typically involves a formal authorization procedure. This procedure might include verifying the individual's training and qualifications, issuing identification badges or permits, and providing clear instructions on access restrictions and safety protocols. It's essential to maintain accurate records of authorized personnel and to revoke authorization if an individual's qualifications or job responsibilities change. Examples of situations where authorized persons are required can be found in various industries. In construction, access to areas where overhead work is being performed may be restricted to authorized persons wearing hard hats and other appropriate PPE. In manufacturing, access to areas with dangerous machinery or hazardous chemicals might be limited to authorized persons who have received specific training and are wearing the required PPE. The Qualified Person classification represents the highest level of expertise within OSHA's Personnel Classification system. A qualified person possesses a recognized degree, certificate, or professional standing, or has demonstrated extensive knowledge, training, and experience in a specific field related to safety and health. These individuals play a critical role in designing, installing, inspecting, and evaluating safety systems and equipment. The required qualifications for a qualified person are stringent and typically involve a combination of education, experience, and professional recognition. For example, a qualified person responsible for designing a fall protection system might be a licensed professional engineer with expertise in fall protection principles and standards. Similarly, a qualified person inspecting electrical equipment might be a certified electrician with extensive knowledge of electrical codes and safety procedures. Employers typically engage qualified persons through contracts or by hiring them as employees. The selection process should involve a thorough review of the individual's credentials, experience, and professional standing to ensure they meet the required qualifications. It's crucial to maintain documentation of the qualified person's qualifications and to verify their credentials periodically. OSHA standards often require the involvement of qualified persons in various situations. For instance, the General Industry Standard for Cranes and Derricks, specifically 29 CFR 1910.179, mandates that certain inspections, such as the initial inspection and annual inspections, be performed by a qualified person. Similarly, the Construction Standard for Steel Erection, 29 CFR 1926.750, requires that a qualified person inspect the erection plan, the structural integrity of the steel, and the fall protection systems. Thorough documentation is paramount when it comes to OSHA personnel classifications. Maintaining accurate and up-to-date records of personnel classifications serves several critical purposes. First and foremost, it demonstrates compliance with OSHA regulations. OSHA inspectors may request documentation as part of their inspections, and failure to provide such documentation can result in citations and penalties. Beyond compliance, documentation plays a vital role in ensuring the effectiveness of safety programs. It helps to establish accountability by clearly defining roles and responsibilities related to safety. This clarity is essential for workers to understand their own safety obligations and to know whom to contact in case of questions or concerns. Effective documentation should include several key elements. First, It should clearly identify the specific OSHA classification assigned to each individual. This includes using the correct terminology, for example, competent person or designated person, to avoid confusion. Second, the documentation should outline the specific training received by the individual, including the date of training, the training provider, and any certifications obtained. Third, it's crucial to document the individual's experience relevant to the classification, such as the number of years of experience in a particular field, or the types of tasks they have performed. Finally, the documentation should specify the scope of the individual's authority and responsibilities within their designated role. Implementing OSHA personnel classifications effectively requires a proactive and systematic approach. Employers should establish clear procedures for selecting, training, and documenting personnel classifications. Here are some best practices to consider. Conduct a thorough hazard assessment. Before assigning any personnel classifications, conduct a comprehensive hazard assessment of the workplace to identify all potential hazards. This assessment will help determine the specific classifications needed and the required qualifications for each role. Develop clear job descriptions. Create detailed job descriptions for each classification that clearly outline the responsibilities, authorities, and qualifications required. These descriptions will help ensure that individuals understand their roles and that employers select qualified personnel. Provide comprehensive training. Training is essential for all personnel classifications. Provide comprehensive training programs that cover the specific hazards, regulations, and procedures relevant to each role. Ensure that training is provided by qualified instructors and that it includes both theoretical and practical components. Document everything. Maintain meticulous records of all aspects of personnel classifications, including training records, experience documentation, and authorization forms. Store these records securely and make them easily accessible to authorized personnel. Regularly review and update. Periodically review and update personnel classifications and training programs to ensure they remain relevant and aligned with current OSHA standards and industry best practices. Consider conducting annual refresher training to reinforce key concepts and address any changes in regulations or procedures. Mastering OSHA personnel classifications is not merely a matter of compliance. It is fundamental to fostering a culture of safety in the workplace. By understanding the roles and responsibilities associated with each classification, employers can ensure that qualified individuals are assigned to critical, safety-related tasks. This, in turn, helps to prevent accidents, protect workers, and create a safer and healthier work environment. Proper implementation of OSHA personnel classifications requires a commitment to ongoing training, documentation, and continuous improvement. By embracing these principles, organizations can move beyond mere compliance and cultivate a workplace where safety is not just a priority, but an integral part of the organizational culture. Remember, investing in safety is an investment in the well-being of your most valuable asset, your employees.